Okay, so I had a comment the other day about overclocking on the Raspberry Pi, specifically with Bullseye, but I'm going to try it with some other OSs. I'm going to use the Pi 400. This method also works with the Pi 4, but it's a simpler way of overclocking your Pi. So this is the comment I had from Colin Knoll. Lee, are you aware, as long as the line run as fast as firmware /board allows, this section gets put in by default now on Bullseye installs. arm_boost equals 1 is present in your config.txt on either Pi 400 or Pi 4, both of which have the newer switching PSU on board. Then there is no need to use the overvoltage line at all when overclocking. I have this Pi 400 running reliably using your 2325 settings. It reports 2400. Uncomment to overclock the ARM. 700 MHz is the default. ARM frequency equals 2325, GPU frequency equals 950, but with no overvoltage statement at all, it runs fine and reliably both on this Pi 400 and my 8GB Pi 4 because the arm_boost equals 1 line takes care of any voltage changes the CPU needs automatically. So as far as I'm aware, this hasn't been overclocked, so let's have a look. Control-Alt-T. Let's do NeoFetch and see what it comes up with. Okay, so NeoFetch isn't installed. sudo apt install NeoFetch. Let's try that again. So 1800, so there's no overclock on there, and we can also check by looking at the config.txt and see these lines that have been added. So we go down to the bottom. This is the line that Colin was on about, arm_boost equals 1, and if I go up to overclock, it's this line that we need to change. So arm_frequency equals 800. So we can change that to something more. Well, I'm not going to change it at the moment, actually. I'm going to leave it as is. Control X. Well, there's no changes to save. So we're still going to be running at 1800. Just double check that. Yeah. So let's install Stressberry. So let's get the browser up and do a search for Stressberry GitHub, because I want to do these overclocks, but I also want to test that it's actually making an improvement. So it's this one here, Stressberry GitHub. And if we scroll down, so we've got here sudo apt install stress. So let's run that. Then the next line, and run that. And then I need to restart. So let's shut these down and reboot. And from my recent Ice Cube Cooler video, I'm just going to copy the Stressberry text that I had from that. Let's do a search for Ice Cube Cooler Lee PSP video. Need to change this search engine to Google. DuckDuckGo doesn't seem to like me as much. Search engine and Google. Let's try that again. That's a lot better, apart from the script that comes up. So let's scroll down to the description and let's copy that text and let's put it on the desktop, calling it Stressberry. And let's copy that into a terminal, so Control-Alt-T and paste that in and run. Okay, so current temperature 28.2. That'll be worth monitoring when we overclock to see how much higher that gets. Okay, so that's all finished and it's got back down to 32.1, and the highest it looks like it got to was what, 42.3 I think is that? I know 42.8 was the highest. So I need to copy all that in. So let's save that and I'll tidy that up and research that in a minute. So let's overclock using this new system. So we scroll all the way to the bottom. So arm_boost equals 1 is there. So we should be able to just put in an overclock setting. I'm going to go right up to 2300 because I know that works. Here we go. So arm frequency equals 2300. And I also know that normally that needs an over voltage to make it work. So you need to provide more power. So let's see if it automatically adds it. Control X. Yes. Enter. So let's reboot and let's see that the overclock is working. So NeoFetch, yeah, and it shows us 2300. Normally when you clock over 2 GHz, it shows the wrong speed, it shows a higher speed. So that's nice to see that it's right. So let's run that test again, just to show where it started. So it started at 28.2 at 1800. So 33.1 is the current temperature, which is higher than the 28.2. It will be idling, so it won't be using the full 2.3 gigahertz. It will be throttling itself back. But once this test begins, that's when the temperature should ramp up. Okay, so it's starting now and it's ramping up, so we should see the temperature start to get higher quickly. I'm not sure, but it appears to have stopped, which is weird because it's not hot. Okay, that's interesting. It's actually crashed. But what's weird about it crashing is it's only on 48.7. And I've definitely run this Pi 400 at 2.3 before with an overvoltage. So I'm going to have to restart and I'm going to do the test at 2147, which would also still need an overvoltage of at least 6 or 8, I would say. So I'm going to switch it off. And let's get in there. Oh, it crashes straight away. I was going to try and change the config.txt straight away, but it's actually crashed. So I'm going to remove the overclock on my iPad. Actually, if you press and hold shift when it's booting up, I'm pretty sure it cancels out the overclock. So let's try that. Okay, so I'm just going to have to switch it off and switch it on and press and hold. I'm sure it's shift you have to hold, and it will ignore any overclock settings. And that should give us enough time to be able to go in and change the config.txt and reboot it. Other than that, I can put it into another computer and change the overclock on that. Let's try and be quick anyway. Control-Alt-T and nano.config. Let's go down and change that to 2147. Control-X, yes, enter. So let's reboot. Okay, so I put in 2300 failed Stressberry, but let's try it again. Control-Alt-T, and let's just check NeoFetch. Yeah, it shows us 2.2, so then it starts to show the wrong. That's weird because it showed 2.3 on 2.3. Anyway, let's run this test again. Okay, so 2147 has worked, so let's copy that in to the document, and I'll go through that later. So I'm just going to try 2300 again and see if that works. I've just overclocked it, rebooted, and because obviously I had a failed test earlier on. I've also tidied this up, so I've got the standard temperature and also the highest temperature it gets to. So let's run that script again and see what happens. And just a random part to the video, this jet is flying overhead, so I'm in Barnstable. You can see it's flown over me loads of times, and it's come all the way from here. I guess there must be an air base down here somewhere. Yeah, it's been flying around here for quite some time. So you can see it's from the States and it is an F-15E Eagle. But it makes quite a noise. Unfortunately, I've gone outside, I can't see it. Oh, made a bit of a turn then. But yeah, just interesting to see. Okay, so it might have been a freak happening because it's running at 2.3 now and it's not struggling. So I'll let it complete the test. It's certainly got a lot further than it did before. Okay, so that'll be another crash. That's a shame because I thought I was going to get some decent results from that. But yeah, if I move my mouse, nothing's happening at all. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to switch it off again and restart it. Okay, so I'm back at 1800 now, and I'm going to try and install Handbrake and render a video, and I'll try it at all frequencies, just in case it just doesn't like Stressberry, and see if it's improving the performance at 2300, because it wasn't really getting that hot. But I'm wondering, is it starved of power, and maybe the auto system isn't as good as putting in a value, like an overvoltage of 11, for instance, which I would think it would probably work on. So let's try searching for Handbrake. Pretty sure it's in the Raspberry Pi store, 64-bit, nice to see. Hit OK, and while that's installing, I need to find a video on my NAS drive. What's that, test MP4, let's try that. Oh yeah, that's my niece video, right, let's do that. So let's copy that and pop it on the desktop and see if Handbrake's already there. Yeah, Handbrake's there. So open, desktop and test. So we change this to 720/30 and fast, and then start. And let's see how long this takes. Okay, so that's all done. I'll have put a timer on the screen so I can judge it compared to all the others. So let's close that down and let's overclock back to 2147. Control X, yes, enter. And reboot. Okay, so let's try that again. General fast 720, open source, test from my desktop, and hit start. Okay, that's all done. Let's try 2.3. Okay, so 2.3 definitely isn't working in this configuration because that's crashed again. Okay, so I'm going to try the settings I used in this video with the Pi 4 for 2300 MHz overclock. and see if that will work. Oh, and it's crashed again. So hopefully I can do this before it crashes again. So I'm going to get rid of the extra line, the ARM boost line, and I'm not going to chance opening Chrome. I'm just going to type it all in. So I've added in current underscore limit underscore override equals 1, force underscore turbo equals 1, over underscore voltage equals 11, and ARM underscore frequency equals 2300. Obviously overclock at your own risk. There was a thing about force underscore turbo invalidating your warranty, so as I say, do this at your own risk. So let's Control X, enter, yes, enter. Let's reboot. So let's see if this is at all stable by maybe playing a YouTube video. Okay, so full screen 1080, and let's just turn on Stats for Nerds. So it will drop frames initially, but when it sorts itself out, it should be fine. Yeah, seems to be looking all right. Right, so let's do the Handbrake test on this, and I can also do the other test, the stressberry, if this works. So I'll do the Handbrake one first. And that's all done. So the results on the Handbrake test definitely got better from 1800 to 2147. So we went from 1 minute 14.70 to 105.45. And then the difference between 2147 and 2300, obviously the auto overvoltage, the new settings didn't work, but putting in the overvoltage manually did work, and it's still working now. The operating system's still fine. At 2300 it was 1 minute and 2.26. So a marginal increase, but definitely an increase, and it does seem to be stable. So I'm going to do the stressberry test now. Let's just save that, just in case it crashes. Open the terminal, and let's run this. Do you reckon it's going to crash? I think it's going to be alright. So just an update while it's doing these tests, and it seems to be still working fine. The American jet is returning to its base, it looks like, and the speed it was doing was 540 knots. Hey Siri, convert 540 knots to miles per hour.
540 knots is 621.42 miles per hour.
Yeah, and it was really motoring. It was really interesting to watch it going across the country like that. Okay, so the test finished and everything was fine. I've transferred the results over. So the temperature was 40.4 when it was idle. You can see it was 35 on 2147 and 28.2 on 1800. So it is definitely hotter. That's to be expected. But the temperature only went up to 64.2. So I think we can probably overclock higher than this. I'm not going to do that in this video because I've taken ages doing this. But yeah, the overvoltage is definitely working for me. But the auto settings on the higher one didn't work. So let me know in the comments what worked for you, but also overclock at your own risk. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Hope this helped. Please like and subscribe.